Throughout history, Mexico has continually been a major source of drug trafficking into the United States. El Paso may be one of America's safest cities, but just right across the border you have Juarez, where countless murders take place on a daily basis. Many drugs are smuggled every day into the U.S., some are confiscated while many others make it across the border. Corruption is prevalent amongst law enforcement in Mexico. Historically, corruption has been a problem in DEA's relationship with Mexican counterparts. There is not one single law enforcement agency in Mexico with whom DEA has an entirely trusting relationship. Most major drug cartels do not conduct business with assistance from law enforcement and government authorities. Many of the cartels operate in immunity and therefore make it extremely difficult to investigate and are rarely brought to justice on either side of the U.S. border. With the assistance of corrupt government and law enforcement, violence generally is easier to carry out because of the cover-ups, payoffs, and lack of investigation. The major cartels are Tijuana Cartel, Juarez Cartel, Sinaloa Cartel, Sonora Cartel, Colima Cartel, Michoacan Cartel, Oaxaca Cartel, and Gulf Cartel. The cartels smuggle most drugs like heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, and marijuana. The most prevalent drugs that are brought into the U.S. are marijuana and cocaine. Since marijuana is cheaper, it has a higher demand in the U.S., making it the most significant drug smuggled.
Marijuana has recently been a hot topic of debate in the media and amongst our lawmakers. Many sides of this issue have been presented, such as the health, economic, cultural, and social aspects of this topic. This documentary will focus on the social aspect of how and if the violence on the border is in correlation with the legalization of marijuana. More specifically, if the legalization of marijuana in the U.S. would affect the drug war on the border of Mexico. In this video, both sides of the issue will be compared. The people who believe legalization would be beneficial in helping to end the drug war, and those individuals who think it would have little or no impact on the drug war.
If marijuana is legalized in the United States, would the violence and drug business along the border be reduced or just simply change in nature, such as drug dealers smuggling other drugs like heroin or cocaine as opposed to marijuana? According to the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, even if marijuana was legalized for individuals over 18 or 21, the black market would continue for those who want to buy drugs but are underage. People under 21 consume the most illegal drugs, so an illegal market would therefore remain along with organized crime that profits from the sale of drugs. For example, when the prohibition of alcohol ended, did organized crime rates diminish? No, it continues even today in other forms of criminal activity, so legalization wouldn't put the cartels out of business. They would probably simply turn to other illegal enterprises or continue to traffic heroin and cocaine. Robert Almonte, who worked narcotics for 25 years with the El Paso Police Department, also believes the cartels will stay strong and simply improvise. He goes on to say, "These are crooks. You're not going to take them out of the criminal activity business because drugs are legalized. They're not going to say, let's go back to school and get an honest job."
On the other hand, we have individuals who believe legalizing marijuana would reduce violence. Panelists at a War on Drug conference in El Paso noted that legalizing marijuana in the United States would weaken the Mexican drug cartels. If you take away half of their money, it will hurt them. It may not break them, but it will hurt them, said William Martin, a sociology professor at Rice University. According to pot growers and law enforcement officials, stiff competition from the medicinal marijuana farmers is threatening the Mexican cartels in a way that arrests and seizures haven't. Medicinal marijuana laws have given insight to the long-term impact of regulated distribution. The hypothesis is being proven that individuals don't need to buy from drug cartels if there are other sources to buy from.
There is also another group of people who believe all drugs need to be legal in order to end the border war. Vicente Fox, the former Mexican president, is searching for solutions to the drug war.
And you're saying that your answer is consider legalizing drugs, marijuana, other drugs?
Well, many different measures. What I'm saying is let's open the debate because we still have time to take other measures. For instance, yes, that was my cry in front of U.S. authorities that the responsibility of this nation in the problems of violence in Mexico is total.
He believes a thirst for riches propels the violence. He says legalizing drugs, as Holland has done, could have the same effect that ending prohibition had in the U.S. in 1933, which was removing incentives for criminals. If the domestic market in Mexico diminished because of new legislation, the export market may become more important to the cartels. A movement toward legalization would need to be carried out in unison between the U.S. and Mexico. According to Jeffrey Muron, a senior lecturer in economics at Harvard, legalizing drugs would reduce violence. Escalation in the form of more troops and greater border control are the wrong responses to the drug war, he believes. The prohibition of drugs is the reason for violence. This is brought on because the buyers and sellers of the underground market cannot resolve their disputes legally. They resort to violence.
Are there alternatives to ending prohibition that could have an effect on the border drug war? Ethan Nadelman of the Drug Policy Alliance believes drug policy should focus on aspects such as school-based programs that are aimed at 8 to 13-year-olds. Also, he agrees outreach programs of categories of people who may be more susceptible to abuse drugs would be affected. Examples of categories of these types of people include families torn by domestic violence, college students, and people with HIV. A former mayor of Baltimore, Kurt Schmoke, explains how he believes the substance abuse issue is a health problem more than a criminal justice issue.
Since ending prohibition altogether is pretty much out of the question, our lawmakers should review further alternatives to contribute to ending the border drug war. Such options could include school-based programs, as previously discussed, and fixing certain laws in order for the law enforcement to be more productive in catching drug dealers. Since we the people influence and decide the laws, it is the citizens' job to become well acquainted with all sides and angles of this topic, because this is a matter which will affect generations to come and could possibly even affect our foreign policy with our neighbor Mexico. Further research on the legalization of marijuana and the uncovering of less biased opinions and statistics should ultimately lead our legislators to make the most beneficial policies for our country.